Hello everyone! Today, I'll be giving you a recap of a romantic movie about a young man who becomes involved with his alluring female neighbor. The film delves into the passionate relationship that blossoms between them. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. The movie opens with a man narrating in a voiceover. He reflects on childhood, saying that as a kid, you never thought about the consequences of your actions and felt unstoppable, even when others warned you about the repercussions. But there was one thing about childhood: the belief that anything was possible. In this man's case, something extraordinary did happen. The scene shifts to a lively beach, where people are enjoying themselves as Kevin arrives in a new town. Kevin is engrossed in a book, but pauses to take in the stunning view of the beach. He arrives in town with his parents, and as they unload their belongings, his mother playfully teases him about whether he brought enough books. Their new house is situated near a pier, where several boats are docked. Kevin heads down to the pier and runs into one of his friends, who excitedly tells him about the influx of women in town, joking that the situation is so wild he could easily get lucky. The two stroll along the pier and eventually make their way to a bar. While they're there, a man suddenly unplugs the cord powering the electronics, abruptly silencing the band that was performing. He receives a couple of boos, but then he starts to play guitar with the band, which the people enjoy. Kevin's friend then hands him an apron and says that summer has officially commenced. Kevin returns home, shouts to let everyone know that he's home, but it turns out that nobody's there, so he goes up to his room and looks at a couple of pictures. When he sees out the window, Kevin notices that a new couple has moved in next door. The wife, Elena, is stunning, and he tries to get a glimpse of her, but she quickly disappears into the house with her husband, Elliot. Intrigued, Kevin continues to watch Elena from his window, but when she unexpectedly looks up and catches him staring, he quickly turns away, embarrassed. Later, while riding his bike, he spots Elena again and can't help but admire her as she bends down to brush sand off her shoes. Kevin then goes to his friend and they once again start up a conversation about girls. The two then take a mattress to an old boat shed, where they hear the sound of laughing on the other side of the beach. The two then open their beers as his friend tells him that he will make sure that he has an amazing summer when he returns home. He sees that the neighbors have moved in. Suddenly, his father calls him and takes him to meet the new neighbors. Elliot asks Kevin that his father has told him that he knows a lot about boats, and Elliot invites him to come and take a look at his new boat, and that he might even hire him as it'll pay much more than just mowing lawns the next day. Kevin goes to take a look at the boat, and he sees Elena coming back from a swim as she goes to take a shower. Kevin continues to secretly watch Elena, captivated, as she undresses completely. While he's still observing her, Elliot suddenly steps outside and strikes up a conversation with him about the boat. Kevin explains that the damage is mostly cosmetic, and Elliot mentions he might be leaving town for a while. They then negotiate Kevin's payment for helping with the boat, settling on $12. Though Elliot admits he would have been willing to pay $20. Later, Kevin is once again looking through his window towards the neighbor's house and sees Elena changing. Suddenly, Elliot enters the room and tries to force himself on his wife, which makes Kevin look away. The next day, Elliot drives to the waterfront, where he's stopped by a guard who insists on verifying his identity. Kevin approaches to talk to Elliot and mentions that the guard can be a bit strict. Elliot, unfazed, simply remarks that he prefers it that way. The two continue their conversation while standing on Elliot's boat. Kevin asks Elliot how he managed to acquire everything he has, and Elliot casually replies that it's all thanks to money and good looks. The next day, Kevin notices Elena walking by again. Suddenly, he hears a scream and rushes out to find Elena standing near her car, panicked as if there's a spider inside. Kevin removes the spider and kills it, then helps her by fixing her car, but gets somewhat awkward when she comes near him. He tells his friend about this interaction, who says that he better be careful with the husband, as he doesn't look like a guy Kevin would want to mess with on his way back from his job. Kevin runs into Elena, who is sitting on her porch. She tells him that she has locked herself out of the house and would need his help to get in. She then asks him to keep this a secret between them, as Elliot had asked her to take care of herself. It suddenly starts raining, and Elena asks Kevin to grab a rock and break the back window so he can open the door and let her in. Kevin does so and manages to get in and open the door for her. She invites him to come in for a drink and hands him a beer. The two start talking, and she notices that Kevin has a cut. She starts to clean it and seductively tells him that he will live. Kevin then kisses Elena, and he tells her that he's sorry. It was bad, but she doesn't seem fazed. She tells him to try again and kiss better. The two start making out, and Elena starts to strip. Kevin helps her take her clothes off, and they end up having sex the next day. They wake up in bed together, and Elena tells him that he was good last night and asks him if he had been with a girl, before he jokingly refers to the sex they had as his third time. Kevin goes home and even smiles to himself, thinking about the time he just spent with Elena. He then goes to meet with his friend, who tells him that he dialed him last night and plays a voice note of Kevin moaning. He then shows him a couple of girls to have sex with, but Kevin blows him off over the next couple of days. Kevin keeps glancing at Elena and even begins exercising because of her. While working on the boat, Elena approaches him again, mentioning that her husband asked her to check on him. They step into the boat, and Elena asks Kevin to close its cover. Flirting with him, she once again starts taking off her clothes, and they end up kissing once again, which leads to sex that night. Kevin is working at the bar when he sees Elena coming in with her husband. His friend comes up behind him and points at a couple of girls and tells him that he has a good feeling about tonight the next day. Kevin is going by on his bicycle when he sees Elliot stop next to a store. He stops and goes into the shop to find Elena inside. Both of them go out the back door and end up having sex, but Elliot walks into the store looking for Elena. Hearing him come, they stop, and Elena then kisses Kevin and goes back a while later. Elliot inspects the boat Kevin is repairing and points out an oversight, following it up with a lecture about why he's been tough on him. He explains that Kevin reminds him of his younger self and acknowledges his hard work. Elliot then mentions that he'll be heading out of town. Kevin seizes the opportunity and meets Elena, where they share a picnic on the bed. During their intimate conversation, Elena gives him a phone, explaining that Elliot is a paranoid man and that the phone will allow them to communicate secretly. Kevin quickly heads to the kitchen with Elena following close behind, but their interaction is spotted by the gardener. Later, Kevin returns to the waterfront and notices Elliot standing beside his boat. He apprehensively walks towards the boat and sees that Elena is with them. He then asks Kevin to take the boat out to make sure that it's seaworthy during the ride. Elliot is almost hit by a beam, but he manages to duck Elliot, then says that Kevin was trying to give him advice about women and asks him if he has a girlfriend. Kevin responds that he has one. Suddenly, the engine of the boat malfunctions, and Elliot goes to take a look. Elena takes a moment to tell him that she is considering taking a divorce from Elliot. He then comes out and asks Kevin to fix it. Later that night, he receives a call from Elena, who is crying, and tells him that Elliot assaulted her and that he is gone for a business trip. Kevin drives to the hospital and tells her that she needs to tell the police about this, but she stops him, and they go home. A while later, he is working when he receives a call from Elena, who is sunbathing next to the beach. She invites him over, and they end up having sex in a boat shack. Elena tells him that she feels free with him. Elena then tells him about her husband's first wife and how they are still embroiled in a court battle. Kevin's friends then inquire about Kevin's activities and tell him that he is seeing someone. But Kevin just brushes these comments aside. He then goes home and sees that Elliot is back. He suddenly receives a call from Elena and rushes to his room, where Elena is standing behind him. She tells him to come over immediately as she needs him. Kevin hurries to Elena's home and finds out that she and Elliot had a fight, during which she struck him on the head with an object. It becomes clear that Elliot is dead, and Elena pleads with Kevin for help, insisting that she cannot afford to get into trouble. Elena asks Kevin what they should do, and he reassures her that they'll figure something out. He advises her to act normal, then leaves to work his shift at the bar. When Kevin returns home, he finds Elena visiting his parents, leading to an awkward interaction. Kevin retreats to his room, and later that night he goes to Elena's house. She apologizes, explaining that she can't stay in her house anymore, so she decides to stay at his parents' house instead. Kevin says that they could make it look like an accident, but Elena tells him that the excuse won't work. So Kevin comes up with a new plan, and he takes Elliot's body to his boat and tells Elena that she will tell the cops that they had a fight, and Elliot left the house just as the boat is about to leave. A security guard spots Kevin and calls to him as Mr. Harper, but Kevin acts like Elliot and takes the boat away in the morning. The cops are investigating what looks like an accident and see the cops coming over to Elena's house. He sees Elena talking to the cops. Kevin used a beam on the ship to make another injury on IoT's head and then used alcohol and a cigarette to set the boat on fire. Kevin continues with his normal routine, and he is serving a couple of cops who are talking about the incident later. A woman is shown driving to the town. She goes to meet the police and tells them that the LA Trust is taking the case very seriously. Elliot had a sizable insurance fund, and it's going to Elena now, so they're investigating for any foul play. The woman continues to investigate what had happened and ask Elena about everything that happened. And if the couple had been sleeping around, Elena replies that she hasn't had any extramarital affairs and then gets up annoyed by the investigators' questions. The cops are also investigating the case, and the guard from the waterfront tells him that he might have a suspect. From that night, the cops then start talking to Kevin's father, and Kevin asks the guard about the suspects. He tells him that he thought he had seen Elliot that night, but it might have been someone else, the insurance agent from before then, and goes to the house to take a look at the crime scene. She discovers the broken glass window that Kevin left the night he first met Elena. The police also ask Kevin's friend, and he tells the police that there might be some woman who Kevin is seeing. This makes Kevin angry, and he leaves later. That night, an agent visits Kevin's home and questions him about the night Elena came over. She mentions that they would like Kevin to come in for further questioning. By this point, Kevin is panicking and attempts to call Elena, but hangs up when his parents return to the car. Later, Kevin answers a few questions at the police station where the agent inquires about Elliot's relationship with Elena. The agent presses Kevin for more details, but his mother steps in, firmly telling the agent that she won't allow her to frame her son. Later, Kevin receives a message from Elena, asking him to meet her at the boat shed. When they meet, Elena tells Kevin that they need to stay apart for a while before leaving. When Kevin comes home, the investigator is back at his house and she tells him that she has to take his fingerprints and a mouth swab. They put Kevin into the car and the agent starts to grill him. But Kevin doesn't answer these questions. Kevin then tells about his situation to his friend and his parents. Meanwhile, the cops find a match for the blood sample that the agent had given to them. Kevin's attempts to prove his innocence are thwarted at every turn, presumably by Elena. For example, a gardener of the Harpers who had seen Kevin and Elena together turns up murdered before the police can talk to him. But Kevin manages to escape on his bike. He goes to the watershed where he meets Elena. Just as he reaches the spot, Elena tears her clothes and starts shouting to let her go. She tries to make it look like attempted rape. The police arrest Kevin. He tells the police that they know him and that he needs to do something to clear his name, so one policeman lets him go, and he rushes to Elena's motel to get his hands on her cell phone. But just as he's looking for the phone, Elena comes out, and the agent comes in. He tells her that the phone has complete proof of his innocence. The two women then walk out, and Kevin notices that they both have the same matching tattoo. It is there that Kevin realizes that the agent is actually Elena's lover and has been her accomplice since the beginning. Everything comes flashing back to him as he realizes that he was just a pawn in a bigger game. At first, it seems that Elena will leave Kevin to take the RP. However, in a last gesture of love, she decides to leave Kevin the cell phone, which contains the exonerating evidence he needs. The women are then shown flying off on a plane after claiming Elliot's insurance fund just as the film ends. Kevin explains how he was eventually sent to prison, but on reduced charges for a short period of time. Elena and her lover are still on the run. He contemplates if he would do it all over again. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. Like this, I always love hearing from my viewers, so feel free to leave a comment below with your thoughts on the video or any suggestions for future content. Once again,